How's the question like? You guys remember?
First of all, we got the text to read. Then we have to listen in a conversation between a female and a male. And then we got a question about the speaking of we heard.
Yes, exactly. Yes, hold on. Exactly it. So first you read. What you're going to read is a short letter where the university could be announcing a change, or maybe a student from the university could be proposing a change. But you always have a change in the letter. The first thing you do as soon as you read the letter, or as soon as you get the letter, you write down the change, look for the change, write it down, focus on the verb. And then you can continue reading and understand, make sure that you understand really well the reasons that the university or that the student gives in the letter. You just need to understand that. There's no need of writing them down, but you need to make sure that you get it. And then you'll hear the conversation, as Noelia says, between a female and a male. And they are going to be talking about the reading. They're going to be talking about that letter that you read. One of these students will have an opinion. This student could like the idea, or maybe the student doesn't like the idea. You need to understand what the opinion of the student is. And then you need to take notes on the reasons that he or she gives, why this student feels that way. Finally, you get the question, as you said. You get 30 seconds to prepare your response and 1 minute to answer the question, which, as Noelia says, is asking you to mostly summarize the conversation. This was the template, so I'm going to ask you all, if you don't have it yet, to screenshot this, screenshot the template so that you can use it. I am going to need you guys to use it in today's class because we're going to be practicing, and you all need to use the template. Okay? Is it done? Are you guys ready? Do you have any questions, comments before we start? Okay, guys, so let's go for it. Let's start with the first question. Okay. Let's start here. Starting now, you guys will have 45 seconds to read the letter.
I don't like the university's plan.
Really? I've ridden those buses, and sometimes there were only a few people on the bus. It did seem like kind of a waste.
I see your point, but I think the problem is the route's out of date. It only goes through the neighborhoods that have gotten too expensive for students to live in. It's ridiculous that they haven't already changed the route, so it goes where most off-campus students live now. I bet if they did that, they'd get plenty of students riding those buses.
Well, at least they're adding more parking. It's gotten really tough to find a space.
That's the other part I don't like, actually. Cutting back the bus service and adding parking's just going to encourage more students to drive on campus. And that'll just add to the noise around campus and create more traffic. And that'll increase the need for more parking spaces.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point. Maybe it would be better if more students used the buses instead of driving.
Right. And the university should make it easier to do that, not harder.
Now the man expresses his opinion of the university's plan to eliminate the bus service, state his opinion, and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Now you guys will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so who wants to start? Who wants to go first? Does anyone? Maybe, I don't know, Guadalupe? Do you mind going first?
I didn't hear the first reason.
Okay, try to improvise. If you couldn't hear the first reason, let's see what you would do if the actual test. Try to hide it in a way. Maybe you can acknowledge that there was a reason. You can always suppose that it was the opposite of whatever you had in the reading, right? If the student was against, then you can try to say something related to the first reason here, or you can just skip that reason and maybe talk more about the second. So let's see what you would do. Okay, try to do the best you can with what you have.
Okay.
Okay, then, so please, you can start speaking now.
If the student in the conversation is against the idea of eliminate the bus services in the university, the reason is he explains that if this happen, more students are going to go by their own cars, and they're going to increase the traffic and the noise in the university, and it could be worse for the students there.
Okay, great, well done. You know, in this case, if you don't know anything about the first reason, maybe what you can do is talk a little bit about the reading. You know, if you understood or if you remember anything from the reading, you can mention it. You can say, first, I mean, you have to use the template, right? A student in the conversation is against the idea of, careful with the grammar, eliminating the bus service. And then maybe you can give a little bit of context as to the reading, because you know that you don't have the first reason, so you need to try to fit more into your response so that you don't have that much extra time. So you can say the university in the letter explain that, and then you talk a little bit about the letter in the university, right? Explains that these buses are expensive to operate, and there's only a few students that ride the buses, and this is why they have decided to eliminate this service. However, the student in the conversation is against this idea, and then you explain, you know, the reason that you have. So maybe that way you can fill some of the time the extra time that you have left. And I like what you did, focusing on only one reason. So the only thing I would say is maybe try to give more information for whatever you have, even if it's the reading, you can use it. Go with a conclusion as well to fill the time. And I don't think I have any other comments. Your delivery was great. The idea that you explained was really well elaborated, well developed. The grammar was good. You were using the correct tenses. So maybe use more information from what you remember so that it doesn't look so empty. But it was good. Okay, guys. And obviously, I mean, I didn't say this, but work on your comprehension skills, right? Maybe ask yourself, why is it that I couldn't hear the or understand the first reason? If it was vocabulary, if it was comprehension, and work on that. But yes. Any questions so far? Everything clear? Okay, guys, so let's go with another one. It will be the same. You guys now have 45 seconds to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Do you believe any of this? It's ridiculous.
What do you mean? Well, it is important to eat healthy foods.
Sure it is. But they're saying yogurt's better for you than an omelet or than hot cereal? I mean, whether something's hot or cold, that shouldn't be the issue. Except maybe on a really cold morning. In that case, which is going to be better for you, a bowl of cold cereal or a nice warm omelet? It's obvious. There's no question.
No, I'm not going to argue with you there.
And this whole thing about saving money.
What about it?
Well, they're actually going to make things worse for us, not better. Because if they start cutting back and we can't get what we want right here on campus, well, we're going to be going off campus and pay off-campus prices. And you know what? That'll be expensive. Even if it's only 2 or 3 mornings a week, it can add up.
Okay. The woman expresses her opinion of the change that has been announced, state her opinion, and explain her reasons for holding that opinion. Now you guys have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So maybe Adrian?
Okay. The student in the conversation is against the idea of eliminating the service hot breakfast in the university. First of all, she explains that hot or cold is not the issue, because they can found something healthier, and in addition, she believes that it is not cheapest to both hold the cold breakfast in the campus. So if they want to buy something hot, they should to go out of the campus, and that's expensive.
Okay. Okay, good. So I can see that you understood really well the ideas, but maybe I think you could have used better words to explain them. Always try to prepare one sentence for each reason. When you're preparing your response, what you should be aiming for is having first the introduction ready. That's usually the quickest part because you already have your notes from the text. And at least two well-structured sentences for the two reasons that you think summarize the most important ideas. I would say the second reason was good. So these will not be cheaper, careful with the grammar, cheaper instead of cheapest. This will not be cheaper. And the reason why, right? Since students will have to go off campus to buy breakfast, right? If they can get what they want in the university. But as for the first one, it wasn't so clear. So the student says that cold breakfast is not necessarily healthier, right? And in a cold morning, for example, they would prefer to have something hot, like a warm omelet, rather than having cold cereal or something. So careful there. Try to always prepare that sentence, one sentence for each reason. But that's the only thing I would say. Maybe a little bit more clarity when you're explaining the ideas. Careful also with the grammar. Remember, could find or can find instead of can found. Found is in the past. And the pronouns, right? He, she. Remember, it's she in this case. But it wasn't bad. It was a good response. Guys, do you have any questions so far? Okay, then let's do another one. You guys now have 45 seconds to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the article.
I just don't think this will work.
Why not?
Because it's not going to solve the problem. Students are busy at night. I mean, we have jobs, families, clubs, social events. Most of us already have something to do every single night of the week.
I see your point. I sure couldn't fit anything into my schedule during the week. I've got swimming practice most nights.
Right. And as far as expense goes, I think they're going about it the wrong way. I mean, it costs money to hire more teachers and keep the academic building open later, which is a lot more expensive than just simply buying more computers.
More computers?
That's right. Computer prices have come way down the past few years, so the department won't have to spend as much now as they did in the past. Besides, the computer department classrooms, the rooms themselves, they're actually very big. There's plenty of space to add more computers.
Now the computer department is considering a scheduling change. Explain the man's opinion of the change and the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Now you will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. You guys? So maybe Noelia?
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so the student in the conversations is against the idea of offering evening classes in the fall. First of all, he thinks that a lot of students are really busy at nights because they have social events. Other students maybe could have jobs, go to the clubs, and the other student says that she gets swimming classes at night. The other reason that she thinks that this is a bad idea is because he thinks that it's more expensive offering evening classes because the university have to hire more professors. And he thinks that probably they can be cheaper buying new computers to daily classes. And that's why he thinks that it's a bad idea.
Okay, great, Noelia, well done. I would say it was an almost perfect response. Great. Starting from the content, we analyzed the content, the ideas were accurate, they were well explained, well summarized, and also included special or relevant details. So the change was good. The adding in evening classes in the fall. The reasons were also correct. Students are busy at night, and you gave enough details of the activities that they're doing. The second reason was also good. It will be cheaper to just buy more computers, and you explained also the idea of the classrooms being big. So content was great. The time management was right on point, I would say. Maybe grammar, some comments, careful. Verbs and subjects, the university has to hire instead of have to hire. And also the tenses, I would say. For example, the university will have to hire or would have to hire. You can maybe even try to use conditionals. If the university did this, they would have to hire new professors, they would have to leave the buildings open till night. But will have, would have, may have, might have, it will be cheaper, it would be cheaper to just buy more computers. Right, so careful with the tenses, with some of the verbs. And also, you don't forget to use transitions, right? Instead of saying the other reason that the student gives, tell me, furthermore, in addition, additionally, he states that, and then you explain. Okay? So those would be some comments, but I would say those are really tiny details, wouldn't really affect much your score. That was a really good response. I can get a really good score. Yeah. All right. Then let's do this one here as well. You will now have 45 seconds to read the text.
Did you see that article?
Yeah, and it sounds like a great idea. It's really good for the students in that program.
Don't they cook in class anyway?
Well, yeah, they do. But my cousin was in the program a few years ago, and she said that it's very different to cook for a lot of people in that kind of atmosphere than to cook for classmates.
Why is that?
Well, in class, you can take your time, but cooking for more people, there's more pressure. I mean, you're in a rush, people are waiting, and it might be easy to make a mistake with all that stress.
Then they'll think you're a bad chef, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, it's good practice. But what about the extra cost?
Well, look at it this way. You've eaten at some of the fancier restaurants in town, right?
Yeah, there are some great places to eat around here.
Well, these students, they'll be making fantastic meals, and it's going to be cheaper than going out to one of those restaurants.
Much cheaper, actually.
So, it'll be worth it. The meals will be as good as the ones in those expensive restaurants.
Now the man expresses his opinion about the university's plan, state his opinion, and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Now you will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so maybe Natalie?
Okay.
Okay, all right, Natalia, go ahead, please.
The student in the conversation supports the idea of changing the dining to the culinary students of the university can cook the last week of the semester. First of all, he explained that it's really good for the culinary students because it's better to cook for a lot of people. It's more pressure and they can have more experience. In addition, he believes that it's cheaper. The food in the university is cheaper than the restaurants in the city. So that's the reason that the student is agree with the announcement.
Exactly, great. That's the reason, or in this case, those are the reasons why the student disagrees, right? It's not the reason that the student is disagreeing. Those are the reasons why the student disagrees. The verb disagree is like a normal verb. So it has to be conjugated without the verb to be and like any other verb. But aside from that detail, it was really great, Natalia. Well done. Starting like the content was good, the ideas were they were accurate, they were correctly expressed and summarized, both of them. Maybe I would work a little bit more on the introduction. I think you were struggling a little bit and you took too long in the introduction. So one tip is always to have prepared your introduction so that you can do it and you can get it over with as fast as you can as soon as you start speaking. So when you're preparing, make sure that the intro is the first thing that you get ready. And then careful with the verb tenses as well. It will be cheaper, right? Because this isn't something that is happening already. This is something that will happen in the future. So it will be cheaper for students to eat these prepared meals rather than going outside of the university to have the same type of dish, the same type of fancy dish in a restaurant, right? In a fancy restaurant. It will be cheaper. It will be beneficial for the culinary students to cook for a wider audience, to get more experience. So careful. Everything has to be with these modals. You can use different modals as well. It might, it may, it could, to show variety, but it has to be in the future tense. Is that okay? Any questions about that? Okay, guys. Awesome. Let's do another one. It will be the same. You have 45 seconds now to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
I totally disagree with Tim's proposal.
Why?
Well, look, Tim's my friend, but he's not your typical student. He stays up late partying every night, weeknights too.
If he parties every night, no wonder he can't pay attention.
Yes, and most students aren't like that. They come to class prepared and rested, and they can concentrate.
So you're saying the problem is really Tim?
Yes, he was in one of my classes last year, and whenever I looked at him, he was actually sleeping.
I guess if he's sleeping, he can't really know what's happening, what other people in class are doing.
Right. And you want to know what does happen in that last hour of seminar? In a lot of seminars that I've been in, that's when things get interesting.
Really?
Yes, that's usually when students get really involved in the discussion and start exchanging important ideas. And if the history department actually did what Tim suggests, well, if they did that, what would happen is you'd lose what might be the most worthwhile part of a seminar.
The woman expresses her opinion about the proposal that her friend Tim made in his letter to the newspaper, state her opinion about his proposal, and explain the reasons she gives for her opinion. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so maybe Salma?
Okay. The student in the conversation is against Tim's idea of changing the seminaries just 2 hours of time, because she believes that Tim is not a good student. He is always sleeping in the class because he wants to parties. She believes that it's because it is Tim's problem and not is the problem of everybody. And he thinks she went to different seminaries, and he believes that the most valuable part is the last hour because it's the most interesting. And if the university take the suggestion of Tim, they will cut that part that was the best part for her.
Okay, exactly. I like that conditional. If the university takes team suggestions, they will cut the last hour, which is the most important for her. So yes, I would say it was a good response. The ideas were great, but I would maybe try to separate them a little bit more. You were like going on and on with different ideas, and I didn't see the separation between the two of them. And that's why the template is for. So try to separate your ideas. You went directly from the introduction to the reason without even changing sentences, right? You said it was a great introduction. The student in the conversation is against Tim's idea of shortening the history seminars. But instead of saying going directly, because she believes that everything was too linear. So make us pause. First of all, she explains that, and then you explain the first reason, make another pause, and then you say, in addition, or secondly, or as a second reason, she says, but make sure that there's that separation between the two reasons so that I can see that those are like two big unities. Separate your ideas a little bit more. Your grammar was good, I would say. I don't think I was able to identify any problems. There was just one sentence. You said, not is the problem of everyone else. Careful with the negatives. It would be, it is not the problem of everyone else, right? It's only Tim's problem. So careful there. But I mean, other than that, what I would mostly recommend is that you separate the ideas, right? That you work on your intonation a little bit more and on the structure in itself so that you add more structure to the response. Use some transitions. However, this is not the problem for every student. This is only something that Tim experiences. He is the only one that can concentrate. Everybody else concentrates better. As a result, I don't know, they shouldn't shorten the history seminar. So maybe some transitions, separating the structure. But that's the only thing I would say. It was a good response. Just work on the structure a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, sure. Any questions so far? All right, then let's do another one. You will now have 45 seconds to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the university's plan.
This article? Are they serious?
Yeah, I think so. Why?
Well, first of all, a lot of kids aren't looking for a relaxing break at lunchtime. They like to study while they eat, especially if they have exams coming up or some assignment they have to get done.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they won't be able to concentrate. This is going to be very distracting.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point.
And second, most students don't like classical music.
It's certainly not what I listen to.
So are people going to stop listening to their own music?
No.
I think people are going to be even more likely to bring their MP3 player, to play their own music and block out the classical stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The man expresses his opinion about the university's plan, state his opinion, and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Jimena, please.
Okay.
Okay. You can go ahead.
Okay. The student in the conversations is against the idea of the university's plan. First of all, he explains that is is it's difficult to him concentrate. And he can't he could disconcentrate him unlike the classic music. In addition, he agreed that player
Okay. So it was good, Jimena. I see that you're making progress. Was better than when we trained last classes. You're still very nervous, and I can tell you're nervous. So make sure that you practice. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's okay that you're nervous right now because you're speaking in front of everybody, and I'm like with the timer, and I'm gonna give you comments on your response. But practice on your own as well. Practice alone. And you can record your responses maybe and analyze them on your own as well. But it was a good response, Jimena, well done. The ideas were good. You talked about concentration, which was the first idea. So yes, students, may be careful with the grammar part. Always try to talk about the future, right? Students won't concentrate in the future if they do this, right? So if they play classical music, students won't concentrate. Students will get distracted while preparing for their exams. So careful with the grammar, you need to use the future tense. The second idea was also good. Students don't like classical music, so they will listen to their own stuff. So it was good, I would say. The grammar, some verbs as well. He agrees, he says, he believes, he thinks. Practice conjugating. You can maybe watch some YouTube videos, play them, and try to start narrating what these people are doing, So he gets up at 6 a.m. He goes to work. He gets dressed. And that way you're going to get used to conjugating the verbs in the third person. But it was good. And also don't forget to mention the plan in the introduction. You said the student in the conversation is against the university's plan, but you didn't explain what plan it was, right? So it's against the university's idea or the university's plan of playing classical music. So don't forget to mention the change. Remember that you can find the change when you're reading, right, in the text. There should be some comments, but mostly just practice. Take a deep breath before speaking. And remember that it's not a big deal. We're just practicing right now. Well done, though, Jimena. Thank you so much. Guys, let's do another one here. It will be the same. You guys will now have 45 seconds to read the text.
Two students discussing the announcement.
Read this announcement?
Yeah, and I disagree. I don't think it will actually help students.
Really? Why not?
Well, they talked about leadership and organizational skills, but that's not really the kind of work you do. Like my older brothers have the kind of jobs they're talking about, and typically you're just there to do basic tasks like typing or filing stuff. Nothing very meaningful.
Oh, so you wouldn't actually learn anything new.
Exactly.
I guess I see what you mean. But what about the other point they make?
About this helping us after we graduate? I don't agree.
How come?
Well, the problem is that there are lots of other universities in our area that have the same requirement, so there are lots of other students at these positions.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought of that.
So even if you take a position like this in a company while you're still a student, once you graduate, the competition for permanent jobs will be impossible. I mean, there just won't be enough jobs available for all the business graduates in the city who will be looking for full-time work.
I see what you're saying.
So the woman expresses her opinion of the university's new policy, states her opinion, and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Natalie Romero, are you there?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, you can go ahead now.
The student in conversation is against the idea of requiring all the students to enroll in the program. First of all, she explains that it's not meaningful for her profession. In addition, she believes that there is more competence with other students in other universities where have these types of programs. And these are the ideas why she thinks it's not a good idea. And maybe have other type of programs.
Okay, good. So great. Both ideas were correct. So
I didn't hear too much about the first idea, so I was confused.
yes, I can see that you said that the type of job or the type of work they do there is not meaningful for her profession, right? But what she says is something similar. She says that the type of work that they do in those companies is not meaningful for developing these skills that the reading talks about. Remember, there's always going to be a connection between the reading and listening. So if you didn't really quite understand the let's say the first reason that the student gives in the listening, and you know that the student is against, then it's very likely going to be the opposite of what you have in the reading. So in this case, the reading says that by working in these companies, the students will develop leadership and organizational skills. The student says that they won't. The student says that students won't develop this type of skills because the type of work that you do in these companies is not meaningful. It's like manual work of typing or transcribing something. So they won't actually develop or learn anything like this. So that will be one tip, and this goes for everyone. As I said before, when you're reading, you just take notes on the change, of course, but you should be aiming for at least understanding or getting a grasp of what the ideas or the two reasons here are, so that you can predict or you can understand better the ones that you have in the list. But what you said was good. I think it was a good way of improvising. And I like the fact that you didn't explain it if you didn't know what it was about, and you moved on to the second, that you did have a better idea. So competition will still be high because there are other universities that have the same program, and their students are going to be competing with them either way. So and again, it's the opposite of what you have here, right? The reading says this will help students secure permanent employment with that company, which the student objects, right? The student says that's not true. competition will still be high. So working in these companies now is not going to guarantee that we get a job later. So yes, like what you said in the second was good. I like the way you improvise in the first. Remember that you can always say the opposite of whatever you had in the reading. And careful with your grammar. I noticed that you tend to have, this is a very common mistake. Remember that in Spanish, for example, we don't necessarily have to mention explicitly what the subject of our sentences are. For example, we can say, en otras universidades tienen el mismo programa. ¿No? In other universities, they have the same program. En español puedo decir tienen el mismo programa sin mencionar quiénes, ¿no? ¿Quiénes tienen el mismo programa? No sabemos. Pero se supone que estamos hablando de ellos, ¿no? De las otras universidades. Pero en inglés no. In English, we can say something like, in other universities have the same program. You always have to mention the subject, you know? In other universities, they have the same program. Or the same program, sorry. So careful there with that grammar part of sentence structure, but some details. I would say overall your response was really good, Natalie. So thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay, guys, so any questions so far? Is everything clear? Okay, I think we have some time. We can do one more. So whoever wants to try can try. Let's do this one. It will be the same. You can have 45 seconds to read the text. Yes, Jimena?
Sorry, me equivoco.
Okay.
Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
Mary, you're an art student. What do you think of this letter?
I don't like the idea.
Why not?
Well, first of all, his first point about a lot of people passing through the student center, that's true, but it's always really crowded with people coming and going. It's not good for showing artwork. Imagine you're standing there, trying to look at a painting. There's going to be like a million people walking through. People walking in front of you, blocking your view, distracting you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
You won't be able to appreciate the artwork or get a good look at anything with so much going on, with so many people moving around.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Plus, he's wrong about the windows.
But isn't it true that it's good for art to have lots of light?
In a sense, yeah. But that kind of light, all that natural light from windows, that's actually not good. Because if it's really sunny out, it'll be way too bright. If it's cloudy, it'll be way too dark.
Oh.
What you want is controlled light, consistent light, the kind you get from electric light bulbs. Think about in an art museum. In an art museum, you've got electric lighting, and the light is always carefully controlled, always at the same level.
Yes. So briefly summarize the proposal in the student's letter, then state the opinion of the student in the conversation about the proposal and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. Now you guys will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So who wants to try this one?
May I try?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay. The student in the conversation is against the idea to change the, the place of the artworks. First of all, she says, she explains that it is true that the student center is the students walk through it, but it is a crowded place, and people don't appreciate the work. And in addition, she believes that the student center is the lights of the student center is so illuminated because it has a lot of windows and makes a warm place, and they should make they should play with the lights, not to make a cold or warm place.
Okay. The first idea is good. As for the second, it's actually the opposite of what we had here. So this is a suggestion of there's a student in the university that in the letter suggests or proposes to display the student artworks in the lobby of the university and in the student center, as you said. And the reasons that this student gives is the first one is related to what you said, and you really well explained that it's viewed by hundreds of people because it's always a crowded place. And the second reason that the student gives in the letter is that there's a lot of light in the student center, in the lobby. So that should supposedly be good for the artwork. Now, in the conversation, your first reason was perfect. So the student in the conversation says that it's actually not a good thing that this is so crowded because, as you said, people won't appreciate the work. Careful with the grammar, instead of people don't, because this isn't happening right now. People won't appreciate the work, the artworks in the future. But as for the second, the student says that having this natural light is not a good thing for art, because light that is illuminating art has to be carefully controlled, like in museums, right? So you need electric light in order to illuminate artworks. So careful with that idea, it wasn't so accurate. And also I noticed that you went over a little bit of the time, you ran out of time. Save some time, especially in the introduction. You're still struggling in putting the words together for the introduction. Make sure that you have that ready so that you save time there and you can use the time that you have left to explain the ideas more. As soon as when you're reading, you should be aiming for the verb, right? In this case, it's in the title, displaying art in or at the lobby in the student center. Right, it was not bad, but careful with the time. You need to practice summarizing the ideas a little bit more. The comprehension of the second idea and the grammar. Remember the verb tenses, most of them will have. Okay.
Okay. Yes, I want to mean that the second reason, but I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. You can always try to say the same or in the same, even in the same words as the student says it. I'm not sure exactly what she says, but one thing, another tip that I can give you guys, usually at the end of every reason, they summarize the reason because they explain a lot and then at the end, they summarize it. So it's probably going to be somewhere here.
Controlled light, consistent light, the kind actually not good because if it's really sunny out, it'll be way too bright. If it's cloudy, it'll be way too dark.
Oh.
What you want is controlled light, consistent light, the kind you get from electric light bulbs. Think about in an art museum. In an art museum, you've got electric lighting, and the light is always carefully controlled, always at the same level.
So always give a detail. For example, that if it's way too dark, if it's way too sunny, it will be too dark, it will be too bright. Those details are never going to be important. Same thing with the examples. The example of the museum is not going to be the general idea either. So in that case, what she says is light, what you need is control light, consistent light, right? That would be maybe the main idea there. So eliminate the details, eliminate the examples, and usually you're gonna end up with the big reasons. Always at the end. And you can always repeat. You can say she explains that what you want for artworks is control light, consistent light, like in a museum, maybe. Right? And that comes out. Right? Yes, it was good. It's just practicing, to be honest. But what do you guys think? Do you have any questions, any comments now that we practice question 2? No, everything okay? Okay, guys, good. Then if you don't have questions, please don't forget to fill out today's daily survey to be on your screens. And I will see you guys next class tomorrow. We'll be looking at the next question.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, teacher.